T-minus 3, 2, 1, 0.
Hey everybody, welcome back. Another episode of the Launch Sequence podcast coming at you. And today I've got Olli43, proliferant YouTuber, putting out some amazing gameplay videos of Star Citizen, and was on here earlier this year. And I wanted to bring you in, Olli, to have like a 3-month kind of check-in. Because I feel like a lot of people come in, you get hyped, you get a good month of excitement, and then you start to get into the flow of things, right?
Are you talking about the Star Citizen honeymoon phase by any chance?
The legendary honeymoon phase.
It's nice to be on here with a camera. Like, you can see my face now, which is
yeah. Cool. Last time it was just a beautiful logo. This time it is a beautiful face. But thanks for coming on for this, man. How have things been?
Thanks for having me. Good. I can't believe it's been 3 months, you say, since I last came on. It feels like it was like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, man.
I've
3
just
months
been
ago.
enrolled in, oh my word. I've just been like sucked into Star Citizen. Actually, I think I had COVID for like 2 weeks in that time. So that was a blur. Not cool.
Yeah, and 3 months ago, we also weren't melting.
Yes. Oh, yeah, it's hot. It's really hot. And we're just not... we were talking before we jumped on the podcast. It's like my house, it just ends up as an oven, 10 p.m. I can't.
Just not equipped.
To stop.
Not equipped for the heat.
I need to live in space. There's no heat in space.
Take me away. Take me away, Star Citizen, please.
Yep.
Take me to Microtech. So, let's see. You've been playing for about 3-4 months now. Going by your YouTube channel, you've been putting out a lot of Star Citizen videos. Would you say that you are like all in on being a Star Citizen creator, or are you waiting for another game to start picking up your attention, or like how are you feeling it out?
So I'm just looking now. Today I will have uploaded my 80th Star Citizen video.
Holy
So I've done 80 videos since I started, whenever it was.
Millions of minutes watched.
Maybe, I don't know.
That's a lot of footage, man. 80 videos.
Yeah, it's quite impressive. I don't know what it's all about, really. I forget.
Just playing the game, just having fun.
Yeah, just having fun.
That's honestly, I wish I could put out more content like that. Just playing the
gameplay.
Game. Yeah. It's good fun because you get in a lot of different situations and you start seeing more things in the game than you realize just watching videos or playing casually.
Yeah, I started by trying to not script, but like plan out video stuff, like what I'm going to do in each video. But at a certain point, I just decided like it just never works out that way, and you just end up trying to like force the game to do the video, and it just became really difficult. So now I just kind of start playing and just kind of go with the flow. I just record like 3 or 4 hours and then just chop it up and out it goes.
Yeah, just kind of...
I get a general idea. Like, not to speak, I just sit and play, but I'd like to check out this ship. What I'm going to do with it, I don't really know.
Right.
Like, my latest videos going up today was the Reliant. It's the first time I've ever seen the Reliant. And I tried to get a vehicle inside. It was kind of cool. Yeah.
How did that go?
Well.
Yeah, it worked. Okay, good.
Yeah. You can fit a little grey cat in there. It's awesome.
I guess we're at that point. Yeah, I'm living in the past where you would need to ask someone that if they were trying to put a video or a vehicle into a ship. The first question you would ask is like, did you blow up? Because it was just so unreliable for years. But I guess now you can do it pretty reliably. That's good.
I'm still pretty nervous. Like I put it in and then I lifted up and I was like, I'm going to do a 180, 360 spin just to make sure it's not going to just rattle when I like fly off Microtech. I was like, okay, I seem good. And then, we're safe. We can go now.
Good. Yeah. Sometimes it like the vehicle starts to dance a little bit, like shake. And you just sit there. You're like, oh no, is this it? is everything going to explode?
That was one thing that happened to me. I really, the Cutlass Steel, the one with the guns on like the turrets.
Yeah.
So I really wanted to go to like one of the outposts at Microtech and kind of gun all the enemies with the like turret. But I kind of got out the pilot seat, and the ship's like, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, no, I'm landing. No way.
Yep.
I don't want to risk it.
Yeah.
I didn't get this far to crash.
It's like how rattlesnakes will shake their tail to let you know you're coming close to danger. That's like Star Citizen. It's like, be careful. Stop doing what you're doing.
Gives me some like PTSD every time the game looks like it might 30k or something. Like, oh no, don't move.
Wide-eyed looking into the distance, like, oh gosh.
Yeah.
So Star Citizen is kind of like the main game for you right now. But I don't think we talked a little bit about like the roller coaster sim or roller coaster world, or the game that you used to make content for a while ago.
Planet Coaster, yeah.
Planet Coaster, yeah. And then GTA we talked about a little bit. But I'm really curious, are there any games in your repertoire, in your library, that you've played a lot of, that you like have a good feeling of, that would compare to Star Citizen, whether it's like an FPS game or an MMO or something?
I mean, I play loads of games.
Yeah.
A game that I'm really enjoying right now, which I do not post content on because one, I'm not that great at it, and two, it's quite. I think the content for it's quite niche. Is Hunt Showdown. I love that game. It's fantastic.
I was going to ask you to play afterwards. We're not right after this, but I was going to say we need to set up a time to play because we talked about it before.
Yeah, no, I'm still really enjoying it. But it's really hard and I suck. So
right, no, I get that energy. Same here.
But it's kind of the reason why I love it, and it's like similar to Star Citizen. Like when it doesn't work, you just want to keep playing. Just so like when it does work, it's so satisfying. And just like, yes,
it really is. It's such a nice, compact experience. Like it's just big enough to feel expansive and interesting, but like it's still focused, small amount of players, and like simple objectives. I like that game. Did you know that it comes from the original engine that Star Citizen's engine comes from?
Nope.
Yeah, they have some similarities.
The thing I love about Hunt is I think the audio is just so good. I'm a huge audio guy. I love focusing on like making sure my audio sounds good. But yeah, the audio in that game is so immersive. Like you can hear things so far away. What are they walking on? Things like that. It's super good. Yeah.
Yeah, it's such an important part of the game too. The way they build it in is really cool. So Hunt Showdown does have pretty good gunplay in it, and like you said, good audio. Overall, good baseline. I was just looking for a game that you would feel comfortable with as we go through like today's discussion. If I wanted to, ask for a comparison, a game that we could point towards for that kind of stuff. So like,
loads. I've like Battlefield. I play a lot. Call of Duty.
Yeah. Okay, so we got some baselines to point to.
Yeah, sure.
All right then. Let's start with, I guess, the most interesting question, in my opinion. How do you feel about the game now compared to last time we talked when you first started? You were in that first month.
That's a big question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so as a content creator, it is my patience for Star Citizen is reduced because I don't know if it's this patch or my PC or something, but I'll be recording a 4-hour segment, and throughout that 4-hour recording, I will 30k 3 times, maybe 4 times, maybe.
Wow!
And every time you 30k, it sets you back like half an hour because you have to go back to, like, for example, yesterday I was on Microtech trying to do something. I 30k'd, spawned me back at Hurston, and now I got to call my ship, and then I got to get back to Microtech because I try not to put it in the video not because I'm trying to hide the fact that 30k's happen, but it's just not interesting.
Yeah,
like me moaning about the game crashing at a certain point is kind of redundant, and no one wants to watch a video about 30k's. So I try to maintain like a story, and like when I'm like 2/3 of the way through of something happening, and I'm like, right, I'm going to go to this outpost with this ship, and it's going to be really cool. And then I 30k, I either have to suddenly decide, right, I'm going to tell everyone I'm no longer doing that, and the video is about something completely different now, or I have to spend half an hour getting back to that point so I can finish the video storyline, if you like. So as a content creator, my patience is tested some days, but as a player, I still love it. I still take a million screenshots, and it's lush.
That's good. So then would you say that there was no honeymoon phase for you? It's just kind of been a smooth sailing the whole way through?
Yeah. I still feel like yesterday I checked out the Reliant for the first time. I reacted the same way I did when I checked out the Phoenix, for the first time again in like 5 years or whatever.
Cool.
So yeah, the game just manages. I posted a comment. You saw the Inside Star Citizen. I watched your video on it. It was really good yesterday, actually.
Yeah, the one yesterday, yeah.
And I left a comment like, "Oh, what an episode!" And people were like, "Is your mind going to be blown, Ollie?" Because like a lot of my titles, like my mind's blown, and I kind of like just embrace it a little bit because I do say that, but at the same time, I am just generally impressed with stuff, and it's like I'm just enthusiastic about things in general.
Finding different ways to have your mind blown. What's a better job than that?
Exactly.
That's what you describe with the whole having to go back and restart the thing that you were doing. That's why I don't ever get gameplay videos out, because like I'll record half the gameplay video, something will happen that completely changes the story, and I'm like, well, this is gonna be a weird video. I'll just wait until the next one. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, part of me is like, well, maybe that's some of the reason why my videos are doing like I consider pretty well, because there's not a lot of people have the patience to like make content on Star Citizen right now, because it is in alpha and it is still in development and things do pop up. So
I can't even imagine the kind of content, like when this game is stable, the content coming out of it is going to be crazy.
It'll be so easy to kind of jump in. But interestingly, there was someone pointed me to a post on, is it Spectrum, the forum? I think the title of the post is Hyper-realism going to kill Star Citizen? And I thought it was interesting because I like, for Hunt Showdown, you can jump into that game and get a satisfying experience out of like half an hour. Whereas Star Citizen, the post was basically, is it going to go too far in the hyper-realism direction? And like, I left a post and I sort of said, I don't want it to go too far, because I don't want to have to invest 2 hours to get like satisfying gameplay. If I have to like have a shower and then go to the toilet and then fill up my ship and like all these things, and before I've even taken off, it takes me 2 hours to do something fun, then maybe it's like too much. I don't know what your thoughts on like hyperrealism and like Star Citizen, but for me, I would prefer it if I could jump in, spend 20 minutes and be like, cool, that was fun, I'm out.
Yeah, I have a lot of, I guess, ideas about it, because like there's so many ways they could go with it. But one of the things that they've done recently, or rather they're doing for 318, is updating Arena Commander, right? The races. They've talked about how they want to rebuild the racetracks and add the snake pit. And that's something they were doing with the combat stuff last year, Arena Commander stuff as well. And it's something they've done with Star Marine. And they talk about Theaters of War possibly being a thing as well. So I see like these little modules that they have. And the way that they once explained that to us was that these modules were like video games in Star Citizen. So the idea would be, you can go in Star Citizen, you have a long quantum jump. You could go into your sim pit, play a couple rounds of Star Marine. When you get out, you're done with your quantum travel. Of course, there are complications with that when it comes to like interdiction and stuff, but I've always wondered, would that be enough to like replace that immediate fun that you're talking about? If you could just jump into Star Citizen and then play like a dogfighting simulator, as opposed to jump into Star Citizen and go out into space and find bounties. Do you think that would be enough, or do you think they still need to make sure that there's casual play in the verse too?
Well, I guess like my response to the post was like, I'm just worried about it being too much. But if they've thought about it and they've come up with ideas, like you say, hey, you can now jump into Arena Commander for a while. Yeah, maybe that would be enough for me to be like, okay, cool. But the only thing for me is I don't want to have each play session be at least an hour. Otherwise, you can't play.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I've only got an hour, so I can't play Star Citizen. That would be really annoying.
Yeah, I get that. So. I agree with you there. Like, even if you're not doing the same thing every time you jump on, you want to do something fun. And I guess it comes down to like, what's fun? Are you like, if you're a cargo hauler, are you cool with jumping in for an hour and spending that hour looking for the right job in the city and then getting that job and then loading your ship and then like signing off so you could take the trip later? Or do you want to do all of that in that 1 hour?
Yeah, I guess it kind of the signing out of your ship and going to bed and like logging out, how that like on off. Like if I can just log out and I reappear exactly where I was, none of this matters because you could just stop and start as much as you wanted, right? But it doesn't. The game doesn't work like that. You like at the moment, if you sign out, you end up in Habs and you have like a 5-minute trek to a spaceport. Like that aspect. If I can like reduce that, then now I will be okay with it. Like if I can, today I'm gonna just set up my ship, and then tomorrow I'm gonna go do dogfighting or whatever. Like that would be cool.
Have you not logged out from a ship before?
Yeah, a couple of times, but it doesn't always work.
Yeah, it doesn't. I just didn't know if you knew that was like a feature that they're working on. Yeah. So I mean, that's supposedly the plan, and that's kind of what I was getting at is like how many chunks do you need of that mission? But it's a good question. Like the hyper-realism thing has been something that has gone back and forth since I've been around. I mean, people were constantly saying, is this going to be a space sim, like a hardcore space sim? Or is it going to be kind of more casual so more people can jump in? And I think actually as we've progressed, they've moved more casual in terms of...
Okay.
Yeah, in terms of some of the stuff.
As someone who's like recently jumped in and the way they talk, it came across, to me at least, that they were heading more realism. Like when I signed on, there wasn't hydration and stuff. And then on a recent patch, they kind of emphasize how often you have to drink, how often you have to eat. So from my perspective, it was like, okay, they're dialing that like realism thing up ever so slightly all the time.
And I guess that's where it gets confusing because they'll have these plans. So like we've known for years that we'll have thirst and hunger, that we'll have like a permanent death kind of situation. I hate saying permanent death, but like the whole death of a spaceman mechanic and that kind of stuff. But then you don't actually know how far they're going to go until they actually get there. So like you said, they recently kind of dialed in that survival mechanics, but for all we know, they could dial it back again, and make it a lot less survivally. So I never really know exactly where they're going with it, but they've always set this baseline and it seems like they sort of stick to it. They want it to be pretty hardcore, but they want to make sure that people can jump in and play casually as you can play an MMO, I guess.
Would you want it? Are you one of the people that would want it hyper-realism, or are you quite happy with it being kind of a little bit casual as well?
It's kind of funny. I go back and forth. Like, I'll see one feature and I'm like, yeah, go super in depth with that. And then I'll see another feature and I'm like, no, please. And I guess that's actually kind of another thing I like about the game is like, I feel like this game won't work unless they build a bunch of stuff into it that we don't like, that like certain people don't like, So I think a good like middle ground is good. For me, if they were doing the survival mechanics, I would prefer if they said food and water is like a buff. You don't have to use it to survive, but if you don't use it, you're going to be running at a much lower level than other people. Your maximum capacity to carry stuff is lower. Your stamina is lower. You can't hold your breath as long. Stuff like that, I think, would make sense. But I'm not sure about, I don't eat for 3 hours and I'm dead. That's...
Okay, how about this for a feature? Like if you eat too many hot dogs, you just become fat. Is that too far?
It has the same
like you have to go to the gym.
Basically, you can overeat and undereat.
Exactly.
That'd be fun. That sounds like their medical system, right? How you like overdose when you take too much medicine.
Oh no, the armor store don't have don't have XL. Damn it! Like they don't have the right suit size.
Yep, only an undersuit for you. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's that would be funny. You know what? Speaking of food and stuff, actually we'll talk about that later. Let's see. So we were talking about how the game is for you now versus before. One of the things people say about this game is that in order to be good at it, you have to know how to work around bugs. Do you feel like since you've started, you've gotten really good at just knowing how to avoid bugs?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of an example that I would keep in mind. But a lot of this game is just like, for example, when you're trying to get into a ship, some of the ships are awkward of like where the enter pilot seat button is, and you've got to stand in the right position for the UI to pop up.
Yeah.
And it's just so many little things like that that it would be really hard to teach someone all of those quirks, I guess you would call them. Like, not so much bugs maybe, but yeah. No, I definitely feel like the game has molded my behavior to play, which is probably not what they want. You probably want a player who can have the game mold to the way they play. But at the moment, I feel like the game molds you to play in a certain way.
Yeah.
Like I was saying to you before with the hover and the cutlass steel. I had a plan, and I was like, no, I don't want to do that because I don't want to risk dying. It's like kind of forced me into a way of playing the game where I don't want it to crash or I don't want something bad to happen. So yeah, definitely.
Game that tries to emphasize choice so much, but so many of these like outdated design elements are still kind of holding that back. Like you said, that's a really good one where if you're not looking at just the right spot, the little interaction menu doesn't come up and you're like, am I supposed to not get into this ship or is it just locked? For new players,
there's been occasions where I've edited out like 10 seconds of me looking at a ship going, oh, where's the bloomin', where is it? And I've just edited that out because, otherwise the video would be twice as long.
Yeah.
Doing these little stupid things.
Oh, gosh. You said that earlier about like, you're not trying to hide footage. And it gives me flashbacks to seeing all the comments of people like, you can't trust what they say about this game. They edit out all the bad stuff. And it's like, well, you can find the bad stuff. I actually...
Yeah, like some of the stuff I leave in, that's funny. Like, there was an example where I like went to a delivery mission or whatever, and the box is like in the ground. There's like nothing I can do there. So I'm not going to edit that out. It's funny, but yeah, it's not a case of like hiding it.
Got to dig for it. I actually wanted to ask.
Go on.
No, please you.
I was just going to say I don't like my interest. Number one is just making a good video. It's not about promoting the game or showing it in the best light. I just want to make a good video.
Yeah.
At the end of the day,
it's entertainment.
Exactly.
I wanted to ask, because I don't think you do, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't see you stream. I mostly see you record the video and then upload it. Is there a reason why you decided to do that instead?
Yeah. I mean, I do like streaming. I've done two streams out of 80 videos here on YouTube. So yeah, like what you say, I don't really stream. And most of that is because, one, I just like the craft of a video. You can kind of like... I think Star Citizen is really cool when it's edited. But at the moment, while it's being developed, I don't feel like the game... Like, being live streamed, if I live streamed what I did yesterday, there was 5 30Ks or 3 or 4 30Ks. Things didn't go to plan. And I don't think, from like a viewer perspective, people would want to watch that for hours on end, because sometimes it's a little bit painful. Whereas when I make a video, I can record 4 hours and make a really nice story, make a nice video. And honestly, I think more people have time to watch like 20-minute videos.
Okay.
Than they do live streams. But I do enjoy live streaming. I just like making videos at the moment.
Yeah. So it's more a product of the game then at this point.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. That's a good point, because when I'm streaming, I'm mostly talking to people, so I'm not putting together a story quite like you are. But if you were trying to like really build something, it's a lot better, like you said, to just have 4 hours of time to dedicate to that. Does it ever feel strange not talking to people, but just kind of talking to your screen, or are you used to it by now?
Oh yeah, I've been doing this for like 10 years. It's more normal than talking to people face to face at a certain point,
I prefer it this way.
Good. Yeah, no, it's nice. No one can look at me in the face.
I get that.
It's
fine. I get that. Yeah. You get a certain level of comfort, especially, what I love about playing versus streaming is not having the lights on. That's great. That feels like a luxury to me now.
Yeah, definitely. Unlike the heat, I can stop if I want to.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we talked about it in the last podcast, but like streaming is mentally draining because you're thinking about the game, you're watching chat, your brain is doing things in the background where you're thinking, what are people going to say in the chat when I do this in the game? Whereas recording a video, your brain is doing like 50% less of the work. I think live streaming is like actually mentally draining. you got to be really made of something to do it on a daily basis.
And Star Citizen takes all your brain power.
Exactly.
You got to focus on this one.
Yeah. I could not stream Star Citizen every day because like the game just isn't finished yet. It's like it would crash. I would get frustrated and then I would have to go on the next day and I would end up just having a bad attitude, and I don't want to be negative guy moaning about Star Citizen on the internet, you know? Like I enjoy
I've seen it happen.
I couldn't stream every day. I just couldn't.
Yeah, God bless
Fair
those
play
people.
to anyone else who does, but
Yeah, it's impressive. Going back to the gameplay though, and playing the game, what have you been sticking to in terms of gameplay? Are you still trying out everything, or is there something you've gravitated more towards?
yeah, I think I'm definitely getting to the point where I've done everything. Yeah, no, I feel like I've done everything. The outposts are kind of fun. I keep returning back to those because it's kind of fun exploring these derelicts and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought, I'll be honest, I really thought when I started playing this game I'd really gravitate towards the dogfighting and stuff. And I do like it, but I've kind of like come off of that a little bit. I don't know whether I just spent too much time on it to begin with, but I didn't really do much PvP. It was more PvE. But I'm kind of, as much as I do like it and I will do it, but in terms of, I think it's more content-wise. I don't know. I wouldn't find it as interesting watching PvE content or PvP content, because like when you're watching a video, it's usually smaller and you can't really see the ships as much. I think it's much more entertaining to watch FPS gameplay or exploring in like third-person ship view and stuff. So I've steered away from dogfighting lately, but
I just had a little moment where you're talking about that, and I don't know why it happens, but every once in a while somebody says something, and I'm like, wow, this game's cool. You're just like, yeah, you know, I like spaceship combat, and that's fun, but it probably is cooler to just watch firefights on the ground. And it reminds me of what I used to think of when we played Battlefront back in like the early 2000s, when I wanted to be able to do or talk about that kind of stuff. And now we're just sitting here talking about it.
Yeah.
I love that.
And you can do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I agree. I think I enjoy the FPS combat in the game more. I just wish it wasn't so bad. I don't know.
I would say it feels a little janky. Just, I feel like the animations need to be tightened up, but also it's so punishing. Like if an AI catches you from behind, that's it. Like you'll go down. I was doing the Siege of Orison, which was really fun with morphologists, and the amount of times one of us would go down because we walk in a room and a guy's like, you know, hiding behind a desk or something. It just happens, and you can't really. It's not because you're bad at the game. It's just because the guys just have laser accuracy, and your armor just doesn't seem to be very good. I kind of feel like they need to buff armor in the game in FPS.
Yeah,
I feel like there needs to be a longer time to kill for you and enemies.
There's a lot of like the aspects of the armor missing in terms of like this will protect you versus this kind of damage, or this will be like, you know, there's all the armor is supposed to be powered, and they don't even have that system set up yet. So agreed, the armor has a long way to go. And to be honest, you're also kind of walking into every situation completely blind. Like you don't have a map, you don't have radar, you don't have a way to detect what's on the other side of that wall. So you're just missing a lot of the tools you might normally use in FPS combat.
Did you have you played the Siege of Orison yet?
Yeah, I got to play it a couple times. There was.
What do you think?
I think it's really cool. I actually haven't spent a lot of time to reflect on it, to be honest. I never played it all the way through, and I never got to see all of it, unfortunately. It's just been like a really busy couple of weeks for me, but
yeah,
it's the best thing they've ever put into the game.
Yeah, okay.
But it's also very broken. Like, the game has come a really far way when you're able to get out into a city and have a firefight with multiple AI that continuously respawn with weapons and loot and medical game. Like, it feels like the first time this game's ever felt like a full game with an FPS component to it. But at the same time, it's laggy, it's unstable. Like there are clearly some holes in the gameplay and places they have to patch stuff up. People are kind of griefing and misusing the system. So like I'm feeling really strong on both sides, but I appreciate a ton how far they've come to be able to get that to work, especially with like so many players on the server.
Yeah, the 100 player upgrade was huge.
Yeah.
Like it basically doubled the player count on servers. That was awesome.
Yeah.
But I found I did the Siege of Orison actually live. It was one of the things I did on the live stream.
Mm-hmm.
And it took hours, and at the end the last guy hadn't spawned in, so we couldn't complete it.
Yeah.
And it was very frustrating.
Yeah.
Because we had this whole story of like, we turned up a little bit late, we were kind of tracing steps. We used the last ship to get to the final platform, and it was really close. We almost blew up. It was such cool like moments. And then you get to the end after like 2 hours of gameplay, and you can't finish the mission. It was just like, it was so frustrating. It was like almost there. We almost like had a really good time, and then it was just like, oh, now we're just spamming random buttons to try and like move the story on or whatever.
Yeah. It's like,
I don't know.
It's like the game forgot the cherry on top. It's like, it's a cool experience, and then it finds some way to just kind of rain on your parade, and you're reminded, oh yeah, it's still Star Citizen.
I would say, I thought it was really long without any direction. I feel like maybe the first platform should have been not tutorialized, but they've definitely said in videos like, we've deliberately not given you much information other than get this guy or get the generals or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of wish on the first platform they walked you through like, you should probably go in this lift and go up here and find a guy, or you should probably go and do this first, or scout this area. Because I feel like I had guides, I had people with me that had done it before. If I didn't have those people and I was recording a video, I would have been there for like 6 hours.
Mm-hmm.
I would have struggled.
Yeah.
Because it's not obvious, a lot of the stuff. And as much as I think CIG want people to like, and I think players want, hey, I need to think about it and I need to kind of work it out, and that's cool. But gamer brain just says, I'm used to things, I'm used to games telling me what to do.
Yeah.
And I'm not used to thinking like that. So like, I just wish there was a little bit more hand holding on that first platform. Just so, okay, I kind of get what you're asking me to do. Now let me do the rest of it on my own.
Yeah.
But I just feel like you kind of arrive at the platform and it's a bit like, okay, now like we're just walking around trying to shoot guys. Not sure what to do.
That is a really good point. And I also love the terminology, gamer brain. Gonna get
Well, it's the same thing. Like if you put a gamer in front of a game, they instinctively can kind of figure out what they've done based on the games they've played before.
Mm-hmm.
But if you put someone who doesn't play games in front of a game, like...
They're like, what do I do?
Yeah, well, why would I need to collect 5 sheep? Like what? Or whatever,
You got to trade the sheep.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a very good point. And they are very... very gung-ho on making sure that the game is like, we're going to give you a lot of choice, we're going to give you a lot of freedom, and then we're going to make you pay for the bad decisions you make. And I like that, but I also see where you're coming from in that it would be really, really helpful if they somehow kind of eased players into that. I don't know how they would, because they need to make sure that you can't use that as a crutch, right? You can't just look at an objective and get every dynamic event done just like that. But at the same time, like, you got to introduce players to the system. What would you?
It's a tough one.
Do you have any ideas behind how they could have done that?
I'm not a game developer. I just make stupid videos. I haven't got a clue.
You're basically QA.
Yeah. No. Exactly. I don't. Well, I mean, for me, like a really good example actually is the outposts. Some of the things require you to climb up on things. I find it really hard to discern what I can climb up on and what I can't climb up on. And I end up, and I'm sure everyone else has done this, you end up walking up to an edge, jumping a few times, going, nope, can't climb that.
Yeah.
Right? So for me, and I said it in my video, was like, can they not just like put yellow paint on the edge of that bit where I can jump just so my gamer brain goes, like that is a yellow bit of paint that I know I can climb up on. I think Far Cry does that, where it will basically stop you having to like repeatedly jump at things, because it's just frustrating because there's no logic on like heights. Oh, I think I could climb that. If I was in real life, I could definitely climb that. But in this game, I can't climb. But if I do it over here, I suddenly can climb. And like, I wish they just, it's weird actually, because in the Outpost, there's no pointers anywhere. But in the Ghost Hollow, there's arrows on things you can climb up. There's like a little arrow that like points you to the bits that the crashed reclaimer site.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In the middle, where you can go into the reclaimer, there's like ledges with arrows pointing upwards, and that's great because lore-wise, hey, there's a signpost that tells you where to go.
Yeah.
But gamer brain, oh look, I could probably climb that ledge because there's an arrow pointing that way.
Yeah,
I wish they'd use them.
Honestly, I would prefer that they just figured out a way. And I think I could have sworn this was their plan, but I'm not sure if it still is. But figure out a way to just make it so that any ledge of a certain level or height is systemically just able to be mantled. Because that's part of the joy of Star Citizen, right? They don't paint out things for you to immediately look at and know. They kind of give you the ability to. They teach you that it's possible, and then they say figure it out wherever it's applicable. Yeah, and I like that approach more. But
if you could climb up a ledge at a certain height every time, I don't need the yellow paint. But until that happens, it's just frustrating to keep jumping up on ledges.
It is. Just stand there and jump over and over.
Yeah, exactly.
So the FPS combat, getting back to, I guess, the Ghost Hollow mission is applicable here, and then also like Siege of Orson. We talked about some of the FPS stuff, and you mentioned that you play Battlefield. Do you think you could give me like let's say Battlefield is like I mean, we could say like Battlefield 3 or 4. It's like a 10 out of 10. FPS wise, I'm not going to start the arguments with the later games.
I like Battlefield 5. Battlefield 5 is real fun.
I just don't want to get attacked in the comments. I don't know how many Battlefield viewers are on this podcast, but that is one of the great debates of gaming, is these Battlefields, which ones are best. But I personally, I liked 5 too. I think I liked everything except for this most recent one. But compared to like the gunplay, like you said, the animations are a little off. Like the amount of tools that you have to use while you're fighting, how does something like Siege of Orson feel compared to a match of Battlefield?
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely tell it's just pacing. I think it's just pacing. Like, I think Star Citizen expects you to like look down and grab your med pen, or like, like everything just takes longer. I know you can press C to get out your med pen. Don't yell at me in the comments. But like,
no, the key behind Olli.
But like, you know what I mean? There's like, for example, with Battlefield, you just tap a button, you throw a grenade or whatever. Mm-hmm. But I feel like in Star Citizen, you would get out your grenade and then you would throw it, and then you have to equip your gun again or whatever. Everything's like a lot slower. So I just feel like it's more of a tactical shooter, and Battlefield kind of facilitates the fast-paced action, cinematic gunplay. Mm-hmm. Whereas Star Citizen is more about taking your time. Look at my weapon. I'm going to attach a nice sight on it.
Kind of like
I'm going to walk into Siege of Orson.
Like something like Tarkov.
Yeah. I like Tarkov, actually. I think it's good.
You've played it?
Yeah, a little bit. I'm no good at it again, but
there's
it's fun.
Decent amount of crossover from Tarkov and like other squad-based shooters like Squad or Arma and Star Citizen. A lot of those people enjoy that sort of more slow-paced nature of Star Citizen you mentioned. Do you think that they do that well? Star Citizen, I mean?
I feel like it's... I don't want to seem harsh, but I just don't feel like the guns are very impactful right now. Like, when I'm firing an assault rifle, it doesn't feel like... For example, when you're firing something in Tarkov or Hunt Showdown, not a machine gun, but when you're firing something powerful, you feel like it's a threatening weapon in your hand. Whereas I feel like in Star Citizen, it's kind of like they need to amp up the visual effects or the recoil or something or just enhance or make the sound louder or something, or deeper. Make it kind of like more Hollywoody guns rather than actual how guns sound. Because it doesn't feel as impactful when I'm shooting a guy down. And then you get the kind of delay. Oh, the guy does the falling over animation.
Oh my gosh. The 10-second dying animation.
Exactly. So like those things kind of make it feel a little janky, I guess. But at some point, I guess they're going to fix it up at some point. So I kind of tend not to pay too much attention because I'm like,
Right.
well, I guess this is on their list at some point.
Yeah, and it's like hard to judge the game because that's always true. But I agree with you. The FPS but also the ship weapons, in my opinion, still don't quite have that punch that I really want from like my sci-fi 900-year future game like that. I mean, some of them do sound good, but some of them leave a little bit to be desired.
Yeah, I feel like I remember hearing on a Citizen Live that the audio guys were like, well, inside of a cockpit, you wouldn't hear much and everything's muffled, like in terms of the guns. But I feel like they need to like just do cool factor and just allow, a really deep for like a laser cannon or something, just like a really cinematic sound rather than just like, oh, well, you wouldn't really hear it in real life. So we're just going to dial it back like really far.
They have this really cool idea for audio. It doubles as pretty cool game mechanic and also like an explanation of the lore of why you can hear sounds in space. And the idea is that like our ships and our spacesuits simulate that sound for us. And so they then say that, well, if you take too much damage, you take damage in a certain place on your suit or your ship, we'll kind of like hit that simulation so that you start to hear less and less. I don't know when they're going to do that or if they're still planning on doing that, but I think that would be really cool.
Yeah. I just feel like they need to crank up like bass or something to everything and just make it super like heavy.
Bass always
helps. At the
helps.
moment, I feel like a lot of the audio is like quite light.
That's
a really bad explanation to anyone who's actual audio engineer, but
very treble heavy, we'll say.
Yeah.
Going back to the events, Siege of Orison was one of them. We've also got to do, I think, Jump Town since the last time we talked. Yeah, so that's a little more PvP focused. How did that go for you? What did you think of that?
So I heard a lot about Jump Town because it's been in the game before, right?
Yeah.
And everyone was sort of saying, oh, it's going to be really like, oh, you got to watch out at Jump Town. Ooh, and like, I'm here going, do I want to make a video on Jump Town?
I know where this is going.
And then I get there and everybody's lining up, just like, hey, good morning. Step in line and grab your package.
Come on by, get your drugs.
Exactly. It was so funny to me, and I did not know that was coming, and my reaction in the video was so funny because I'm just like, what is happening? I'm here expecting war, and everybody's lining up like at a library or something. What the hell's going on?
Everybody is too busy getting beat up by the game. They don't want to do it to each other.
Exactly. But at some point, some genius spots me in the game and decides to A2 bomb run Jump Town. And it kind of actually turned into a really cool thing. Like some random stranger just turned up, picked me up, didn't know who I was at first, and then realized who I was, and took me back to where I could deliver it. It then broke, the elevators weren't working, so I couldn't actually finish the delivery mission. But had it did work, it would have been a really cool, like, went there, I collected like 6 boxes or whatever, and then my ship got bombed, and then random stranger picked me up and helped me out, which was really cool. And then it just turned out, the game like fell at the last hurdle and I couldn't deliver it. It was almost a perfect story. But
just like the Siege of Orison story.
Exactly.
You get like such a cool experience. That is cool though. That's the old emergent gameplay, which CIG loves to talk about all the time. But it's real and it happens, and getting to play with random people like that's pretty cool. So
yeah, it was awesome.
So what would be your natural approach? Because you got there and everybody was being friendly, but let's say you got there and it was completely empty and you had free reign and then other people started to come. What would be your go-to strategy?
I've talked about this before, and I've talked about it with my A2 as well, that I would, if I wasn't recording, everyone would die without a doubt. I would be that guy. I would be bombing everybody.
He's the psycho when the camera's not on.
Exactly. So, but recording, I'm like, let's see how this pans out. So I, come in. But it was interesting. I was there another time, and there was an org there, and it was really funny. They made everybody remove all their armor apart from their helmet or something. They like said no armor or no guns, and you'll be allowed in. So like people were strolling up with their guns on their back or whatever, and they were just getting gunned down until everybody realized like, oh, I can go in as long as I don't have any weapons on me. And then they were allowed in. So that was kind of cool.
There's all kinds of strategy for it. What we originally did, me and my org, was we basically said we're taking control of this as like a business. So we're taking most of the drugs out of here, but like anybody else who wants to come, if you're peaceful with us, we'll cut a little bit off the top and let you take it with you. And like I think that's a cool approach. I think the approach that you just mentioned is a cool approach. Like there's so many different ways to tackle it, which I think is what makes it cool. But I do realize there's kind of a disconnect in the way that people view it. Some people view it as it should be able to be peaceful all the time. Like we should get in there, work together, and make sure we can get the drugs because everybody is playing the game. Like nobody's looking to get killed. You got beginners who don't know what's going on. Whereas other people are like, well, this is a strictly PvP zone. You better be ready to die for any reason, right? It's not up to negotiations. We might kill you. And I think I'm hoping that part of the solution to that will be in the future with more dynamic events, allowing those people to kind of do the events that they want to do. But how do you feel about that clashing of opinions?
I think at the moment it's to be expected, but I think it will change when there's a lot more at stake. Because at the moment, if you die, you're not really losing anything, really, other than if you've already been there and you've like stocked up on stuff. So like the guy who decided to get a crime stat by killing everyone, he's now like he don't really care. But when the game is at a point where what did you said, the one life?
Oh, Death of a Spaceman mechanics.
Death of a Spaceman, that's it. So when that's implemented and that's like a lot more important and insurance is a factor and all those things, then I think people will be less likely to screw around. Because I think the thing is people are like, it'd be funny to blow everyone up. I think that's all it is. Whereas when there's a lot more consequence to doing that, I think people will be a lot more peaceful.
Yeah. Yeah, a better law system will help a lot. Have you fallen ill of the law system yet? I mean, you don't even have to be a criminal player to do that. Have you gotten in prison?
A couple of times. It was actually early on when I did the bunker missions. And at that point, they didn't show you friendly markers.
Right.
So I'm a new player. I'm like, I'm ready to go to the bunker. And I start shooting everyone. And why do I have a crime stat? What the hell? This is what you told me to do.
It's so confusing.
Yeah. But now they give you like friendly markers and it's great. But I ended up in prison a few times.
And did you wait out your sentence or try to escape, or how did you handle that? I did the mining. I don't like people. This is controversial. I don't think you should be allowed to just log out and come back an hour later or 5 hours later. I feel like you should have to like fill your sentence. Because at the moment, if you go to prison and it says you've got a 4-hour sentence, as far as I know, you can just you can just log out for 4 hours and then your sentence is complete, right? Mm-hmm.
Right. But I think you should be like only, contributing to your sentence when you're in the game. So if you go to prison, you are in prison.
Hardcore, Ollie.
Yeah. Is that controversial?
Very hardcore. I don't think that's controversial. I'm sure there's tons of people who agree with you on that, but that's hardcore. I mean, especially now when like you can get a crime stat for anything. You just get a newcomer who comes in and accidentally shoots a guard, and then they have to just stand in prison.
4 hours. That's the next 4 hours of gameplay.
Oh man, yeah. Overall, that prison system needs a lot of help. I think it's.
Do you reckon? I didn't think it was too bad. The only thing I didn't like is I didn't know the first time that I could just log out. So I thought the game was like, nope, you're in here for 4 hours now, and I didn't know I could just log out and come back.
Yeah, and I think it makes sense, like you're still missing out on gameplay, and I appreciate that because criminality is part of the game and they're not just punishing people who are being mean, they're adding risk to criminality. They saying, hey, you could get caught as a criminal. We're not just going to screw the whole game up for you. We're going to take away that freedom, but we're still going to let you have like gameplay in prison. I do appreciate that, and I'm glad that they're updating that a little bit with 318 too.
Yeah.
But overall, the system, in my opinion, I think it still needs some help.
Where so? I'm curious.
I think there's not enough there. You get thrown into prison, and you can basically take a single route to escape, do some mining, or replace an oxygen tank. Now, they say they're adding missions, but at the same time, I think somewhere like the prison should be linked into other parts of the game. And this is stuff that I wouldn't expect right now, and I do hope that they add later, and I think they will. But like, there should be mission givers in prison, right? There should be bounty targets in prison. There should be reasons that
gang warfare type thing.
I think there should be incentives for people to want to get thrown into prison, because then it starts to mix up the objectives and motivations of the people in prison. You get a little more emergent gameplay there, because like as it is right now, you could shank somebody and kill them and take their supplies, but you don't have much reason to. And I think if they really want it to be a good part of the game that does thrive, and it's not just a nuisance to anybody who's a criminal, they do still need to make it fun in there. So
can you imagine like an org just trying to hold control of a prison?
Oh God.
Just like, no, we own the prison, and you're going to have to pay us outside or get somebody outside to pay us to let you out. Otherwise, we're going to kill you every time you try and mine. The game could totally facilitate that.
Yeah. You could have one of the most valuable or like powerful players in the game always in prison, right? They're just like, they make deals with people in prison. They have connections outside where they can run hits and stuff. It's a bunch of theory crafting, but like that's the kind of direction I'd like to see it go.
Yeah. I'm with you on that one.
That'd be cool. Yeah. All right. 3 months it's been since you got in, or 4 months, however long. But there's only been, I think, 1 or maybe 2 updates since you joined, and you kind of have gotten to see the structure of how they do that with the PTU and Evocati, and like they kind of give us some sneak peeks and looks at what's coming up. What do you think of this strategy, the way that they're doing updates and building the game?
It's kind of hard because, like, as a content creator, I find the PTU server almost a pain because I have to, obviously, if I want to show new stuff, I have to suffer a less stable game.
Yeah.
It takes even longer to make videos, right? But as a player, if I was just playing the game, I think it's great being able to, if I want to see the new salvage thing that's coming out soon, I can jump in, play with it a little bit, get my taste for it. Okay, that looks like it's coming along nicely, and then return to a more stable version of the game. I love the Inside Star Citizens and the videos they do. I think they're great. And I think the updates are coming out really fast. I don't think that's always how it's been. But to me, it seems pretty quick, like iterations of content and ships. Like for me, I got the Mule, the Centron, the Vulture I've seen in game, obviously with the Drake event. So like I've seen quite a lot of new stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think it's okay.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna make a video on it actually. The idea that people are always expecting content drops from MMOs, and Star Citizen kind of has this interesting situation where they're able to always drop content and make the game feel a little bit more fresh, and it's not like extra. It's like exactly what they should be doing, so they kind of get a benefit of not having to slow down or wait half a year or a whole year to drop an update or DLC like other MMOs. You're right, though. It's going a little bit faster now. Not necessarily that they're releasing more updates. They're doing more in their minor updates. So like they do 3.17, and then we got 3.17.1. The 0.1 patch normally wouldn't have been that big. Like you would have gotten everything in the main patch, and then like bug fixing and maybe something here or there in that X.X.1 patch.
We got 100 player servers. Like I think that's pretty big.
Oh yeah, that was a good late addition to the to 317 too. And I think it will continue to be like that. You jumped in at like a really good time for
Yeah, people keep
not
saying that.
being boring. Yeah, because they shortened the roadmap, so it was easier for them to, I think, compartmentalize what they wanted to show us and give us a little bit less of like a overwhelming look at the year. So we get like a nice look at the next update. And then they also have a lot of extra things they can throw in there. So you're starting to get like updates that have more content than they used to. And it's been pretty good, but I'm always curious how it looks to people who just got in here for an update or two.
Yeah, no, for me, I think like if I wasn't making 80 videos, I feel like I would still be finding new stuff all the time.
Yeah.
Like I don't think I would have seen everything yet. So yeah, I think it's impressive. I find it, I know in the past they've had a bad rap of like not having a roadmap or it being really lofty or not having times or anything. But I think like now they kind of go like there's so much information. Like you can see everything they're working on pretty much. And you can see the timescales, like what teams are on what. I don't know of another project out there that does that. It's kind of insane.
I think I've heard that Microsoft Flight Simulator has some good roadmap stuff.
Has the same thing.
But honestly, in terms of communication, I mean, like you said, you've got Inside Star Citizen, you've got like the Twitch show that they do, monthly reports, like weekly sneak peeks. They even show us like the schedule for every week. They have a lot of communication. Do you take advantage of a lot of that?
What, just by
just watching or reading it? Yeah.
Yeah, I find it interesting. Even if I wasn't making videos, I'd be watching it, I think. Because like I'm excited when a new ship comes out, or like this week's Inside Star Citizen was great just because they showed, you know, stuff that's coming out soon. That's like exciting content, right?
Yeah, sprint reports are great.
It wasn't like a back end stuff, and you go, oh, okay, that's kind of cool. But it was like, you know, wow, shiny new UI and things like that. It was really cool.
Yeah. Oh man, UI updates are like so few and far between. That was great. It's so good to see a UI update.
Yeah.
But yeah, they put out so much stuff. Did you become a subscriber by any chance? Do you look at their jump point thing that they put out?
Yeah. And you know what? I really wish there was like a male version. As in, like, I could get like a magazine type thing, because I love the PDF. It's well made.
It's beautiful,
but it's kind of hard to read a PDF. Like, I don't really enjoy sitting and reading a PDF. I don't know about you, but I kind of wish I could have them all printed out nicely. You know?
Yeah, because
I feel like
you have to like zoom in on the page and like
exactly
move your screen around. But it's
I would subscribe to that.
Yeah, but it's nice that it's there. And to be honest, my favorite thing is the monthly reports. I talk about them constantly, but like if every game did something like that, even if it was a quarterly report, but if every game did something like that, I feel like people would understand games way better. Like have such a better understanding of how a game is made, even if it's not the technical part, just the idea that like this happens at this point and this happens at this point. Like this is how many people have to work on something that's considered simple. I think that stuff is cool.
The only thing, and this is the only negative thing, is I kind of wish we saw something more about Squadron 42. I feel like they're so cagey about that side of the project.
They are.
In terms of like, I don't know how far they are. I don't know any idea when that's coming out. I don't know when a trailer's coming out. They almost kind of like promoted it and then, you know, radio silence.
Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah. So Squadron 42, it's funny because that's the one that deserves all the criticism. When people are like, oh, they spent so much money on actors, or like they gave us 3 different release dates and they've missed them all. Like that's Squadron 42, right? That has nothing to do with Star Citizen other than being part of the same project. And it's funny because Squadron 42 just doesn't make as many headlines, but I'm in agreement with you. They're very cagey about it to the point that I think it's detrimental, honestly. I feel
like they don't try and build up any hype for it. Like they don't talk about it that much.
No, they don't. They tried. And like in years past, they've tried to get the ball rolling in terms of giving us updates on it, in terms of getting, I guess, looking at least like they're putting more effort into it. Like they put together the roadmap for Squadron 42, which was useless. I mean, it does show the work they're doing, but it's like
there's no context for it.
Yeah, even the Star Citizen progress tracker is like, okay, that's just what you have planned. We don't know what that means. They tried to do like a quarterly series on Squadron 42 called The Briefing Room. They did one episode and then they stopped. That was like a video that was 4 months late from when they told us they were going to have it, and they hadn't told us anything about it for those 4 months. Like, they've always botched things when it comes to sharing about Squadron 42, and it's hard to understand why.
Do you think that is? Oh, you don't.
I mean, it's.
You answer my question.
I have theories, and I think a lot of people probably will point back towards the brainchild of the whole thing being Chris Roberts, and that he has a huge ambition for the game. It's his baby. It was the original idea of this whole project. It has, you know, people that he worked with in the past working on it. It's got new ideas and stuff. And he's like a movie guy at heart, right? He wants a cinematic experience. So he needs this to be perfect, and he wants it to be a huge surprise. So they go back and forth on how much they need to share. And I think that it's a little bit too much.
I'm surprised. I didn't know that they had already given 3 release dates.
Yeah, the first one was like 2014, I believe. And then I think it was
That's almost 10 years ago.
Yeah. That's a conversation. Yeah.
But how do you go from thinking your game's going to come out in 2014 to radio silence until 2022?
Well, that wasn't radio silence. We got other release dates. So the big one, the one that is memed about, is 2016. And they got like all of the actors in this. There's a trailer. You should go and find it. Answer the Call 2016. It showed like amazing actors' names. You had like Gary Oldman. You had Gillian Anderson. Like, what's his name? John Rhys Davies. Like all these crazy famous actors. And they're like, this is a crazy cool game. Super militaristic. Sign up now. Answer the Call. And then 2016 came and went. And it was like the biggest joke.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and it's always been the embarrassing part of the whole story.
Is that why they don't talk about it? Because they're just embarrassed?
I think
it's not out yet?
I think they got to a point where they're like, we need to not put out dates for this game anymore, because they did it one more time. They said the beta was coming. I feel like
they just need to release something and then do a Squadron 42 episode 2 or something. Right?
Well, that's the thing, right? They already planned for it to be 3 parts, actually. So they're ahead of you on that. But that's the thing, is like, they've taken so long and so much has happened. And to be fair, part of that length is the fact that they are building the game engine. They are trying to manage the production of Star Citizen at the same time. So there's a lot of like resources getting pulled every which way. And I think that's part of which made the funding model so difficult to follow. But if they don't put out a game that's amazing now, that's going to be a disaster for the whole project. So they're kind of stuck. They have to make sure it's good, right?
I just feel like they just needed to lock something in and just, hey, it was our first try. The next one's going to be better. I just feel like they're too soft on, but we can keep working on it. Because like, when will it come out if it's not coming out in the next... Do you think it's going to come out in the next 3 years?
Yes.
You do?
Yeah,
okay.
I do. I think...
I thought you were going to say no.
In the same way that the development surrounding Star Citizen is different now, over the last, I'd say, like 1.5 to 2 years, it's definitely had a big shift. I think the same is true with Squadron. I think they probably finally got to a point where they were able to put a lockdown, maybe not on features, because God knows they always are trying to do more with that, but kind of the scope and scale of the story, the layouts of the missions, and some of the supporting gameplay that we need. Things like the star map, the radar, ship combat is starting to actually become a reliable thing. FPS combat is seeing some work with the medical gameplay. Like, you're seeing some of these signs in Star Citizen that show that clearly they can now fill in these gaps in Squadron 42. And I think that points towards like next 2 years, maybe. I don't like to put a number out there.
There's going to be a clip of this in like 3 years' time. You'll be like, no.
I was like, maybe I shouldn't have just said that. I absolve myself of all numbers.
I think they should. I find it frustrating. Like, I've not even been here that long, and I find it frustrating that we're not getting that much stuff. I don't know how people have. Like, if you've been following the project as closely as I'm following it now, I'd be. I might be done because like it.
A lot of people are.
They kind of communicate a lot, but at the same time they don't.
Right.
Like in certain things, it's like you tell us a lot, but there's never any dates.
Their problem is that they wait until a certain time to tell things, and like you'll get some news and they'll be like, yeah, so this is what happened like 8 months ago, and you're like, well, why didn't you tell me that 6 months ago then? Like why do we have to wait all this time for this? And that is a bit frustrating, and it kind of the Squadron 42 approach definitely lends a different slant to the idea that they are in open development, because part of it is open, Star Citizen, but then Squadron 42, it's much harder to follow. They put out monthly reports, but a lot of it's the same as the Star Citizen stuff, and we don't get that much context.
Yeah. I guess the thing is they're not under any time pressure. Like, they continue to get funding. They don't have a publisher waiting for money to come in, like for a game sale, for example. So there's no like Cyberpunk equivalent where like a publisher's going, well, we need it to release at some point because we're waiting for that paycheck, right?
I think
Star
they...
Citizen
Go ahead.
Oh, no, carry on.
I was going to say, I think they look at it similar though. I think there's not a date that they need to do Squadron 42 in order to get paid, but Squadron 42 is their key to getting paid. Like if they release Squadron 42, they're going to get a massive influx of cash to help with Star Citizen. And they know that. So I think, and you can kind of see it, like they expect it. Look at the expansions they're doing, the studios they're building, like they're expecting a pretty big chunk of change in the next couple of years, I think, to help kind of boost all this expansion they're doing.
Do you think they're waiting for the PU to get to a certain level before? Because if you know, hypothetically, if you launched Squadron 42 next week and then all the players complete the campaign and go, what shall I do now? Oh, I'll go into the PU. But the PU's kind of buggy, or like it has quirks to work through, and then people fall off. Do you think that's why they're holding back? Because they're waiting for a PU to get to a point where people will stay on PU?
I don't think so, because they'll still sell ships. You know, they would still like they get a bunch of ship sales from people coming in from that stuff. Even if the game was a little bit like buggy and they weren't ready for it, they'd be like, "Oh, this is sick. They clearly make a good game. I'll just buy this stuff and wait until it's ready." I mean, it's a good point though. I think they would lose people because of that, and it probably helps that the game didn't come out in 2016 and everybody who finished Squadron 42 had to wait 6 years for the PU to become stable. But, you know, with that context, then they wouldn't have been working on Squadron as much. So maybe Star Citizen would have been further along. Just so many what ifs, you know?
Yeah. I'm surprised that they're doing this Siege of Ocean stuff, which is like kind of like a story, kind of a mini story, like the Nine Tails. You get like an announcement and you're kind of following a story. But like they're making, like you said, like a cinematic campaign. But like, wouldn't it have been much cooler if they could have like had it a bit like GTA Online, where the missions are online rather than, you know, within a single player.
Yeah, segment. like a campaign in the MMO.
Yeah.
That would be cool. I do hope that like the missions in the MMO get to that point where you feel like you're running through some sort of, maybe not like a full length campaign, but like a 6-hour chain of missions that feel like a really in-depth campaign. Yeah. I think they just wanted full control over Squadron. They wanted to be able to time things, make it feel like you're playing in a movie, like all that stuff. They didn't want somebody like barreling in with their reclaimer and smashing into your edges or something.
What are you doing? I'm just trying to land.
Just playing the game, man. Where'd you guys come from? Yeah, but that I look forward to missions that feel more cinematic and in depth in the PU, because currently the missions are very basic. I'd say.
Yeah, I feel like I've been quite negative today, but I am generally still really enjoying the game. It's just, like I said, I think being a content creator of Star Citizen has kind of emphasized frustrations in the sense that if I was a player, I would have just kind of shrugged it off a little bit. But as a content creator, I have a target of hitting a video every other day, and I have videos I want to make, and like when there's problems, I get frustrated, right? So I still really like the project. I'm still really invested. It's the only thing I'm making videos on right now, but it just needs that little bit of polish.
Yeah, it does, and it's a joke to say, and we've been saying it for a long time, but I feel like it's like the next couple of years we're looking at some big changes. And I said that a year and a half ago. I put out a video and I said that I felt like over the next couple of years things were going to start to pick up a lot, and they did. And I think that's going to continue. I think server meshing. Do you think it's going
to multiply? Like it's going to get even more?
Like exponential speed up?
Exponential. That's the word I'm looking for, yeah.
I don't know.
I'm kind of hot on the spot right now.
It's like you can see it. The way that they've added locations this year, we've gotten more new types of locations than we did in like the previous 3. Don't quote me on that. I don't know if it's actually true, but like my point is we're seeing really fast iteration on things and really quick additions from teams, specific teams that they can call out, like the Montreal team or the EUPU team or the Sandbox team. Whereas before we didn't have that sort of context. All we knew was, they've done this kind of work on this part of the game and this kind of work on this part of the game, but we don't know when that's coming into the game. Now it's like you see it, they talk about it, and you get it in 6 months, you get it in 12 months. And I think that's a big difference that is only going to get more and more true. And like I said, with the smaller updates, them fitting in some of these like little tiny things like the 100-player server updates, that's also compounding. Quality of life stuff, less crashes, less bugs. The game's been so miserable for so long that every small addition like that feels like a big deal.
Anything you can get.
Yeah. So I think it's going to feel exponential. I'm not sure if it's going to be, but yeah.
I think, like, thinking about the recent update, they added a load of like fuel stops around Microtech. Like that's a pretty big deal, and I feel like people don't really talk about that, but actually it was quite a lot of work probably to generate those areas and stuff, and they just plopped them in, and it was kind of no fanfare about it.
Perhaps that's part of their tools, and they just gotten good at like
building
those
tools
and throwing it in. Yeah. I had a couple more questions for you before we wrap up here. Does this game feel like a long-term main game to you? Does this feel like something that you could be playing for years from here?
Yeah, just because I want to see where it ends up. Like, if I don't know if it was finished today, I don't know if that would be the same answer. Honestly, like I don't know, but because they keep changing it, it's always gonna feel a little fresh. So yeah, I guess so. To answer your question,
yeah, because
I feel like I'll stay on it for a while.
For a few years. Yeah, they'll be adding stuff regularly.
Well, Squadron's out in a couple of years, you said. So
hey. Don't attribute me to that. I don't want to see a quote on anybody. Oh gosh. Yeah. So you can't say stuff like that. It's on my rule book here and I missed it.
No, I think it's exciting how much like there's so much room for polish and changes and quality of life stuff. And I think, seeing that, being part of that journey is kind of fun, actually.
Yeah. So it is. It's part of, like, you're jumping into more than just a game when you're getting into Star Citizen right now, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
So I guess that works perfectly with my last question for you. Basically, what are you excited to see in the next year? I don't know how much you look at like the roadmap or what they're talking about coming, but are there any features that you've heard about or maybe that you haven't heard about that you'd be interested in seeing soon?
I'm really looking forward to, and I don't think it's going to be soon, but I'm really looking forward to seeing how the game progresses with large ships, capital ships, and server meshing and stuff like that. Not because, from more of a technical standpoint, I just want to see how it works. And also, with Jumptown being as weird of a social experiment as it was, it'd be really interesting to see how you get a similar social experiment where you have like 30, 40 people on a javelin. How's that going to pan out? Are people going to start having Among Us type fantasies where they start stabbing people in a dark room when no one else is watching?
Gosh.
Yeah,
that's just
how is that all going to pan out?
Making like, oh, it'd be so cool if they had closed servers and you could just make little mini games like that with ships. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
But that's a great one. Capital ships have always been kind of a big question mark because they've talked about how they want to make it work, but in practice, it's gonna obviously be something crazy that nobody expected. And I'm also excited to see how people handle that and play around with that. Somebody's gonna end up doing some kind of ridiculous capital ship battle with like 10 javelins in a low atmosphere, and every ship that gets blown up crashes to the ground, and that stuff's going to be amazing.
Yep. I'm looking forward to seeing that because I feel like that would be a huge milestone for the PU. And I don't think it's going to come before we get Pyro because I don't think there's enough space in Stanton for capitals, but that would be really interesting when that happens.
Yeah, and they've got a lot of capital ships still not necessarily in the game. I guess that's actually one last question that we can talk about is the ships themselves. The ship sales, how they're presented. A lot of people have complaints about the ship sales. They think that it's a ripoff that you can buy ships or that it's pay to win. Obviously, it's a way to fund the game, but like, how do you feel overall about the way that they handle the whole thing or the way they price their ships?
Well, first of all, I don't think there's any pay to win in this game because I think a good pilot can fly a bad ship and still win. So I don't think the pay to win's fair. But the pricing of some ships in this game is weird. I'm just looking on the website now, and the A2 is £720, whereas the C2, basically the same ship, apart from doesn't have the Moabs, is £384. Like, those Moabs are so expensive.
Yeah.
Just to have that feature. And it's the same for like the Cutlass Steel is 225, and if you go down to the Cutlass Black, it's 96. So I don't know, the pricing's kind of all over the place and it doesn't really add up.
Yeah.
A ship that I bought recently was the Reliant, which was a really cool ship, but that's really cheap comparatively to other ships in the game, but it does more. So I don't know, like it's £62, but when you compare that to a Buccaneer, which is £105, but doesn't have cargo space, doesn't have potentially habs, like I don't like that's a weird value. Also, the Buccaneer is a Drake ship, and I thought they were meant to be kind of like more stitched together kind of affair.
Yeah.
So I don't know, the pricing seems a bit weird to me.
I think the biggest giveaway of the pricing model is when you look at alien ships. They all have what we like to call an alien tax. Basically, they're all more expensive than their counterparts made by human manufacturers are because CIG doesn't want that many people to have that ship. And they always started out with this idea of like, oh, it's funding, don't worry about the price you're putting in. That's how much money you're choosing to put in. But obviously, over time, those prices have been synonymous with how much the cost of the ship is for most people. So it is definitely a weird one, and it feels kind of FOMO-y, like they're like, well, this ship is so expensive, so it's exclusive, so you want it more kind of thing.
Yeah. There's definitely a skill of having like impulse control.
Right.
If you had a lot of disposable income and you're into this game, I imagine it would be hard not to buy all the shiny ships.
To be honest,
especially when they do them on the like events for Invictus Week or whatever, where it's like the Javelin's only here for 1 week and it's £2,000. Like,
yeah.
As soon as you've only got a week to buy it, and also there's a quantity, like there was a point
limited.
where it's limited, which is bonkers because it's not limited. It's freaking software. There's nothing limited about it at all.
Right.
But like that encourages this kind of like, well, if I don't buy it and it sells out, I'm going to be sad. So I better spend £1,000 on a ship that's not out.
I actually back when I didn't really play the game that much. I had another job before I was doing this. I actually had no interest in buying the ships. I would, every once in a while, I'd pick something up just to kind of help fund the game. But it never really I don't know, I never felt that inspired to get them. I love the ships and I like reviewing them and flying them and playing with them. But from then till now, I've always been of the mindset of like, just don't get them. You know, it's the people who
Well, you
want
can earn
to
them
get
in
them.
game, can't you?
Yeah, you can
Most
earn
of
all of them in game. There was a time when we couldn't. It actually wasn't that long ago. Say the last 2 years, 3 years now. You couldn't buy or rent ships in game.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it took a while for that to get into the game. And a lot of people didn't think it would happen. A lot of people were like, they'll never let you buy those ships in game for now. They're going to put that off as long as they can, but they eventually did, which was nice.
Yeah. No, that's huge because I think a lot of people have more time than money to like own the ships. Like, I'm never spending £700 on a Hercules. I'll just buy it in game.
Yeah.
Like I can't justify £700 on a ship. On their own website is like 380 for the same ship. Like it's the same design inside, pretty much.
Yeah, they've got, it's got turrets and armor and stuff like that, but they just don't want that many people flying around with giant bombs.
Yeah. I guess also like it's the cool factor. Oh, that ship's really awesome, so we can charge more for it.
Yeah. I personally would not put that much value on that gameplay, but it's some people's choice, and I'm not going to say how to spend your money or not, but I do think everybody should take a second to think about what they're putting their money into when they do, because these ships can change, the specs of them can change, the looks of them might need to change. They do a lot of work on these ships over time, and your type of gameplay that you like might change. So it's definitely a gamble putting that much money down on a ship that's not ready.
Yeah. I mean, I think this might be quite controversial, but I think obviously when this game was in first development and they needed funding, I think selling concepts was fine, but I think it's a little unfair to ask for more funding because I don't know, but I'm pretty sure this game has a lot of funding right now. And I don't think they need to sell concept ships anymore.
I think they only just became barely profitable.
Really?
They're pretty balanced. Yeah, they put out their financial reports at the end of every year. You can check them out, but for the most part, they've been.
Is that true?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, they put out all their financials. I don't know how much detail they get into, but like you can see the document if you like. It's public.
Interesting.
Because they've been paying a lot of money. I mean, besides the actual keeping the game online, just paying out all the devs is like a ton of money. I think Grumpy Eye did the math and came out to something like 70 to 80 million a year just to pay the employees. Besides, like the 5 studios that they have and the Amazon Web Services stuff they're using, and so I think they're still trying. I still
don't like. Sorry, I was just going to say I still don't like selling concepts. Because I just feel like if I'm paying for something, I should get something in return, and it shouldn't be a promise.
Well, you do get a loaner ship.
True,
it's not necessarily the ship, but it's something to hold on to that at least is like a, hey, you can fly something.
That's the only. I kind of wish they just didn't do that. I understand, obviously, they want funding, and by the sounds of it, like you say, it sounds like they need funding. But I still like they have enough ships, and they haven't but they just don't show them all on the website, right? So they circulate them and stuff. So if it's about making more money, then maybe have more ships available to buy, or lower the. I don't know. Just do the math. But I just don't like the selling concepts. Like sell it when it's out is what my stance on that.
Well, I always thought a decent way to fund the game after it releases, if they did want to keep selling ships, was to continue doing the concept sales, but not let anybody fly those concepts until the ship was in game. But you think just that period of time in between concept and being in game is, you just don't want to see that.
I just don't, because like I say, I think it plays on people's like FOMO, like, oh, I don't want to miss out on being able to buy the ship and stuff. Like, I think they should just I think they should obviously promote a ship and say, oh, it's coming out soon, oh, it'll be out next week, and then release it and allow people to buy it that week. Whether or not that would work financially for them, I don't know. But from a player standpoint, it just doesn't sit well with me selling concepts. that
I
are
see
so
that.
far away. Like maybe the Corsair, because that's close. We saw that recently, right, with the grey box phases and stuff. That looked nearly like getting close to finished.
Oh, but they released the concept for that years ago.
Yeah, exactly. So that maybe now would be fine, I guess.
Mhm.
Like a few months before it's out. But this selling ships that are just artwork, that I kind of have a problem with. I guess.
Yeah, I can see that. I think if they're gonna do a concept sale, it should be something that's coming out like 6 months max, maybe
6 months.
a couple more. But I can agree with you on that, and I think there's a lot of discussion to be had about that too. That's like the hardest part to really wrap your head around is the funding, the balance of funding versus making the game, focusing on the finished product versus like the current play experience. Like that whole section of conversation around Star Citizen is probably the most divisive, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if CIG would want me saying something like that, but like I know what impulse control problems people can have, and like when you put a concept sale ship that's not out for a few years, I just don't like it. It just doesn't sit well with me. So yeah, the 6 months is a great idea. Like, oh, the ship is coming out this year. Maybe you could pre-order it.
Yeah.
But selling a ship that they know for a fact won't come out for a few years.
You can go either way on it. Yeah. Well, Olli, I'd like to thank you again for coming. Is there anything else that you wanted to touch on, your favorite part of the game, or anything that you've particularly enjoyed? I know you're working on an org. Did you want to do a plug for that, or is that still in the works?
That's still in the works. I really want to have an org, but I don't know if I can be bothered to organize it all the time, which is it's in the name, right?
Yeah.
It seems like such hard work to organize people and stuff.
I didn't think it was when I first started one.
This is what I keep getting told.
Yeah. Now the org probably takes, because both me and my wife do this basically as a full-time living. The org probably takes like 30 to 40% of our time in a given month. Whereas like, obviously you don't make any money doing that. And then the content is the other half. So it can be hard to balance, but yeah, it is. It's a lot of work.
Do you think, okay, how's this for an idea? I've been pretty like anti capitalism for CIG this whole podcast. But what if CIG allowed you to have a paywall and they take a cut of the organization?
Ooh. Oh boy. So like the org people got paid?
Yeah, so you would get a cut, I'd say 60%. CIG get like 40%.
No.
But no?
I would not want to mix money in with it. It's already difficult enough. It's like there's just so much.
You said it took 40% of your time. Is your time not worth anything?
I mean, it's an extra. It's an enjoyment. It's the community.
That's fair.
That's like right now it's difficult when you can't put enough time towards it, or you feel like you're not putting enough time towards it, and you get that kind of like that guilty feeling like you're letting it down. Right. But at the same time, you know that at some point it's going to be a community that brings a ton of value and a ton of enjoyment to the game. So I'm fine with investing in that,
Yeah.
I feel like if they start building money into that, the whole experience goes down the drain.
Yeah. I'm just a terrible person that's like, how can I make CIG more money?
Just be like, you want funding, CIG? Here you go.
Sign me up. I'll help you out.
Well, I do hope that you you decide to jump in on it, and I hope that you're able to fit that into your content and what you're doing. Sorry, the call to prayer is going on outside.
That's okay.
A new regular part of the podcast and live streams. But that about wraps us up. We've been chatting, man, and honestly, I wanted to talk longer. This is a great talk. I can't wait to jump in. Hopefully, some Hunt Showdown soon and play a little bit, or maybe some Star Citizen.
Hell yeah!
But we've been talking about your content the whole show. So can you please let everybody know who's been listening and watching where they can find that content?
So I make videos on YouTube on the channel Olli43. Star Citizen gameplay, start to finish, and that's pretty much it. That's the elevator pitch. It's just Star Citizen gameplay.
Easy pitch. You're hired.
Yeah, great. Woohoo!
I personally really like the videos. I think they're a great representation of how the game plays, besides like the 30Ks and stuff you said you cut out. And Olli, just a fantastic entertainer. You have such an infectious laugh when you blow up and you're just cracking up. It's fun to watch. But thanks for coming on the show again, and I'm sure we'll have another checkup sometime soon later this year. But for everybody who is listening or watching, please consider subscribing, following, leaving a review. And if you'd like to come and listen to this live and ask some questions to the guests and myself, consider supporting on Patreon, Twitch, YouTube, or Ko-fi. And with that, we will see you all in the next one.
See you later, guys.